At the beginning of the film, we see Violet being brutally abused by her husband. Their argument makes it clear this wasn't the first time. Now, Violet was completely exhausted. Her husband was even pointing a gun at her. So Violet pulls out a gun she had hidden. Whether she shot her husband or not is left unknown. As the scene abruptly changes, years later, we see Violet again. This time, she appears stronger. Her husband is no longer in her life. As part of her job, she now provides therapy to women who have suffered abuse from their husbands. Her sister and son live with her in the same house. Today, after many years, she finally agrees to meet someone. At her sister's insistence, Violet had never seen Henry before, the man she was supposed to meet. She arrives at the 5-star restaurant he mentioned. As she enters, she bumps into a man. She doesn't pay much attention and walks to an outdoor seat by the side, where she begins talking to a waitress. Then, an old man named Richard approaches her and calls her by another name. Violet looks at him in surprise. Apparently, Richard thought she was his friend, who hadn't arrived yet. And so, Violet and Richard start talking. After a while, Richard's actual friend arrives, and he leaves to join her at their table. Meanwhile, Violet notices something strange. Someone is sending airdrops to her phone. That means someone nearby is sending pictures and messages to her anonymously. Airdrop only works when the sender is close. She looks around, but everyone seems to be on their phones, just like her. She can't figure out who is doing it. While she's still wondering, Henry arrives, and her attention shifts to him. Violet and Henry go to their table and begin a formal conversation. When Henry asks about her son, Violet instinctively checks her phone to see if her sister has sent any message. Instead, she finds even more airdrops, and she tells Henry about them. Henry also starts looking around, knowing the sender must be nearby. Violet tries to ignore it, but then one message shocks her. It says, "Check your security camera." She quickly opens the live feed of her home's CCTV. There, she sees masked men inside her house. They are armed. Seeing this, Violet panics. Before she can say anything to Henry, she receives another message, a warning to stay silent. Panicking, Violet stands up and walks away to make a call to the police. Just then, another message appears. "I've cloned your phone. I can see everything you're doing. Don't try to call the police, or you will be responsible for what happens." During all this, Violet once again bumps into the same man she had collided with earlier. She ignores it again and heads to the washroom. She tries to ask for help from the girls there, but suddenly receives another message warning her not to try anything. Violet realizes the person is watching her every move. So, without saying anything to anyone, she returns to her table. She resumes her conversation with Henry, carefully adjusting her expression. Then, she quietly sends a message asking the unknown man, "Who are you? And what do you want?" The man responds by saying that Henry, who is sitting in front of her, is a photographer. He has a camera, and she must remove the memory card and destroy it. But she can only do that when Henry is not at the table. To send him away. Violet cleverly takes off her watch and hides it in her bag. She tells Henry she may have lost her watch and asks him to look for it. Henry agrees and leaves to find it. While he's gone, Violet takes the camera out of his bag. Inside the camera are photos of the mayor and some documents, clear evidence of the mayor's corruption. The man behind the messages wanted Violet to erase this evidence. She removes the memory card and quickly places the camera back. Soon, Henry returns to the table. After a short conversation, Violet excuses herself and heads to the washroom again. On the way, she breaks the memory card. She then sends a message back to the unknown man. "I've done your work. Now remove your men from my house." But the man replies, "Who told you the work is done? There's still more to do." He instructs her to open the toll box nearby. Inside, there's a small container. She must make Henry drink the liquid from that container. She immediately understands it's poison. She refuses to kill anyone. But the man replies, "If you don't kill him, your son will die." Her son was her only weakness. Feeling trapped and blackmailed, she unwillingly agrees. Terrified, she steps out of the washroom. Then, she spots the same man she had bumped into twice before. She notices he has been sitting alone for a long time and is using his phone. She begins to suspect he might be the one, sending her the drops. Before she can say anything, she sees Henry about to stand up from the table. She quickly goes to him. Henry tells her, "I feel like you're not comfortable round me. You keep making excuses to walk away. Maybe I should just leave." At that moment, Violet stops him. She kisses him and asks him to stay. At that moment, Violet stops him, kisses him, and asks him to stay. She says, "I don't have any problem with you. I want you to stay." While they're talking, a girl leaves the area noisily. She was the same girl who had come with the old man, Richard, the one Violet had spoken with earlier when she arrived. Seeing this, Violet feels a bit uncomfortable, but she encourages the girl with a look. Then, Violet's eyes turn toward the pianist. He had a bowl in front of him, where people were leaving tips. Suddenly, an idea strikes her. She pulls out a banknote and writes "Help me" on it using her lipstick. She calls the waiter and asks him to pass the banknote to the pianist. But instead, the waiter places it in the crystal bowl with the rest of the money. Violet keeps her eyes on the bowl. She didn't expect the pianist to notice it, but luckily, he sees the banknote. After reading it, the pianist makes a phone call. Violet assumes he might have called the police. Meanwhile, the waiter serves their food, but Violet notices something shocking. The same banknote she had written on is now placed on the food plate. On the other side of the note, there's another warning from the same mysterious man. She turns to look, thinking the pianist might be blackmailing her. But just then, the man suddenly collapses after drinking something. It becomes clear this was the work of the same man, who wanted to prevent the police from getting involved. Violet realizes she has made a big mistake. She thought she was being clever, but it backfired. Once again, the man messages Violet and tells her to check the security cameras. Violet sees that now the man has started torturing her son and sister. Her young son is locked alone in a room. She receives another message. If you want to fix everything, then finish your task. While reading this, Violet tells Henry, "I'll go get you something to drink." She goes to the waitress, gets the drink, and just as she's about to mix something into it, she receives another message. You have to do it while sitting at your table. So she takes the drinks back, places them on the table, and starts a conversation with Henry. She asks him, "What did you see in me that made you want to meet?" Henry replies, "I don't meet many people. I don't even use dating profiles. Most people lie about themselves there. But the day I saw your profile, you had written the truth about yourself. That's what I liked, and that's why I came to meet you." Hearing this, Violet feels genuinely touched. She realizes that Henry had come for her honesty. She begins sharing more about her past and the reality of her life with Henry. She tells him that her husband used to torture her a lot, even in front of her son. As a result, she became emotionally broken. After hurting her, he would apologize and act as if everything was normal again. And I used to believe him. I thought maybe he truly was sorry. I kept forgiving him over and over again, just to save my home. But nothing ever changed. When I finally understood that, I moved on from it all. While saying this, she becomes very emotional. Henry tries to comfort her and goes to get some chocolates to lift her mood. Taking advantage of the moment, Violet adds 2 or 3 drops of poison into his drink. As soon as Henry returns, she offers him the drink. Henry is just about to drink it when Violet suddenly realizes she's doing something terribly wrong. She can't bring herself to tell him, so instead, she deliberately spills the drink on him. Because of that, Henry doesn't drink the poisoned glass. His clothes get stained, and he heads to the washroom to clean up. Right then, Violet receives another message from the man. He writes, "You're trying to act too smart." Violet becomes furious. She starts to feel sure that the messages are being sent by the man she bumped into earlier. She's about to confront him when his partner arrives at the table. Now she becomes confused if this man really was waiting for someone, then who was sending those messages. Violet then goes to the waitress. The waitress says to her, "I've been noticing you for a while. You look nervous. Is your partner troubling you? If so, I can help. Things like this happen around here often." But Violet says nothing. She just responds, "Everything is fine. Henry is also fine." Then Violet asks the waitress about the man she had bumped into earlier. The waitress replies, "He's a regular. He always reserves the front table. But today, he ended up at that table." Violet then sees Richard sitting at that table. And, seeing this, she begins to feel a deep sense of shock. She walks over to Richard with 2 drinks in her hand and offers him one. Richard says, "No, Violet, I've already had a drink." Hearing her name from his mouth, Violet's doubt turns into certainty. Richard is the one who sent her the drops, because she had never told him her name. Not even once since she arrived. Violet asks him, "How do you know my name?" Richard starts laughing He asks her to sit in the chair across from him and offers her a drink. Violet knows she can't refuse anything from him. After taking a sip, she asks, "What do you want?" Richard replies, "There's just one last task left. You already know what it is. Just finish it, and I'll set you and your son free." By the way, Richard says, "I have to give you credit. You're clever. You saved Henry from drinking the poison. But because of you, a huge mess happened. That poor pianist died, even though he was innocent. Thank God I saw your banknote. If I hadn't noticed it, we both would have been killed." While they're talking, Henry arrives and asks Violet if everything is okay. Violet replies, "Yes, he's Richard, a friend of mine." Henry and Richard greet each other. Then Violet offers Henry a drink. Henry accepts and drinks it while standing there. After that, Violet says, "Go ahead and sit at your table. I'll join you in a moment after speaking with Richard." Now she turns to Richard and says, "All right, get your man out of my house." Richard sees that Violet has completed the task, so he calls his man and tells him it's done. He then begins to enjoy his dinner peacefully, while Violet silently watches him eat. When he finishes half his food, Violet suddenly says, "I lied to you. I didn't put the poison in Henry's drink." Richard pauses, confused. He stares at his plate and recalls the moment when he was watching Henry drink. That's when Violet had switched the poison. Instead of giving it to Henry, she had mixed it into Richard's food during the distraction. Realizing this, Richard becomes furious and pulls out a gun. Violet quickly stands up and steps back. Everyone in the restaurant turns to look. Henry, who had been watching from behind, rushes in front of Violet to protect her. Richard fires, and the bullet hits Henry. Then, as Richard tries to shoot again, the waitress rushes from behind and attacks his hand. The gunshot misses and hits the hotel's glass window instead. Enraged, Richard stabs the waitress with a knife. She gets injured, but before Richard can aim again, Violet grabs an object nearby and throws it at him. Richard dodges it, but it hits the glass wall behind him. Due to the strong air pressure, the wind pulls Richard backward, and he falls out of the building to his death. The wind nearly pulls Violet too, but just in time, Henry grabs her hand. Despite being injured, Henry manages to pull her to safety. Now, both Henry and the waitress are hurt, but Violet can only think of her son. She grabs Henry's car keys, calls the police, and rushes to her house. Meanwhile, at home, the kidnapper was torturing Violet's son and sister, but both of them managed to trick him and lock him outside a room. However, the man has a gun and shoots the lock open easily. As he enters, he shoots Violet's sister. Then, as he moves forward to kill Violet's son, he's interrupted by a knock. It's Violet. She had already entered and picked up a knife. As the kidnapper comes in front of her, she stabs him in the shoulder. Furious, he picks up Violet and throws her across the room. Now Violet is too weak to fight him off. The man approaches to finish her, but just then, her son uses his remote control car to deliver a gun to her. Violet grabs the gun and shoots the kidnapper, finally saving her son's life. Some time later, we see Violet at the hospital. She brings food for Henry and her sister. Her sister had survived. The bullet had only grazed her arm. And now, Henry was recovering and doing well. Violet had finally decided to build a family with Henry. They were all happy together, and the movie ends here.